We talked about digging trenches and, making a room. And prayer, digs out new territory. And there were a couple of missionaries from here in New England. Some of you might remember. Anybody know the Datillases? Remember the Datillas family from out in western Massachusetts? They had a big ministry for children called, I believe it was called Brookhaven Camp.
Yeah.
And for years, they had thousands of kids from all over New England that went to these camps. And God called them to the mission field down in Haiti, and they were given a piece of land there. And there was a particular area of the land that they were told that there was water on the land. But they went down there, and, they had 5, maybe 10 miles to drive over those rough roads to begin with when they opened the orphanage just to get water. And they ended up having, got babies, you need formula, you need water for formula, you need water for bathing the babies. So water was a much needed commodity, and they were ready to dig a well on their property. And so they went where the man had told them, this is where, actually it wasn't the man that told us, the Spirit of God that revealed that in prayer, wasn't it? It was in prayer, and they felt to dig in a certain particular area on the property.
It was the guy that they brought in to dig that said, I don't think there's water here.
Yeah, he kept saying to him, I don't think there's water here. But they said, well, this is where God told us to dig.
Yeah.
And so they started digging for that well, and they just hit rock. And they just could not get anywhere. And the guy said to them, I don't think there's any water here. But if you think you're going to dig in this place, and they were assured that they should, he said, you're going to have to send to the States and get some bigger bits. Now, can you relate to that in prayer sometimes when you just keep hitting rock, when you've just been digging and you've just been preparing and you've been expecting and you've been using your faith, and then, you just keep hitting rock, right? But they went ahead and ordered those bigger bits, and they brought them back, and they started digging. And what happened was they hit what they call an artesian well, which by definition is underneath impenetrable rock strata. And when they got those bigger bits and hit through that rock, they not only hit a well that supplied for the orphanage, they hit a water supply for the entire village and area. So they said it shot 40 feet in the air. All the natives were dancing. The people at the compound were dancing. Because, that's exactly what happens when we keep digging in the place of prayer. We keep digging. We don't give up. We persist, right? I already heard about your session this morning. Powerful. And persistence in prayer to say, you know what? We know what God said. I mean, it was 35 years ago that Steve and I were told that we were going to oversee a place of prayer in New England. Now we're in Dallas, Texas, and we're thinking, how did we get here? I mean, Lord, you said, I'm changing your assignment. I have need of you. But now we feel called to New England. We feel like we're supposed to establish a place of prayer in New England. And we're down overseeing a place of prayer in Dallas, Texas, 24/7. What are we doing here? We thought we were going to help the pastor for a couple of years. Now 15 years has gone by. 16 years has gone by, and we have no release to return to New England. It's in our hearts, but there's no release in the spirit. We know we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But you know what? We just kept digging. We kept digging in prayer. We kept saying, Father, we really believe that's what you told us. We really believe. When the Lord released us to come back to New England, we had $2,000 in the bank designated for the printing of a book. We weren't in any position to buy a place of prayer, but God said, now's the time. It's time to return to New England. It's time for that place of prayer. It's time for that vision I gave you 35 years ago.
That's right.
It's now time when you feel utterly exhausted, when you've hit nothing but rock. And then God begins to say, okay, I'm about to spring a well. I'm about to redig a well. Because we laid for hours on our faces in prayer for New England years ago. In 1986, we laid on our faces for hours. I'm talking about days, months, years that we were on our faces in a prayer room in Boston, Massachusetts, praying for every aspect of revival. And then God sends us completely away from it and gives us a chance to pour out and pour out and pour out. But what happened was it made us hit the artesian well. It made us hit that inexhaustible supply. It made us hit a place where there was a life flow. God says our words are sparkling and life-giving like water. You know what happens when water's moving? When water's flowing out of your belly? It's carrying oxygen. Do you know that there are people that are sitting in oxygen bars in Boston today trying to get a little fresh air? Snorting it up, putting a little tube in their nose, trying to get a breath because they're out of breath. And they're looking for something to give them breath. And here we are, a breath of fresh air. One day the Lord said to me, when your family says to you, who do you think you are, Bara? You think you're God's gift to humanity? Just say yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm one of them. I'm not the only one, but I'm one of them.
Yeah.
When people say, who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
We are a gift from to humanity.
Yes.
Because we carry a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Because there's a river flowing out of us.
Yes.
And if you'll let your river flow, you don't know what all is on the inside of you. It's like an artesian well. It's not about you.
Yes.
It's an inexhaustible supply of the
Amen.
Spirit of God. The Spirit of God in and through you can minister life to the people around you.
Yes.
Can give life, can give them a breath of fresh air. You'll open your mouth and you'll just speak an encouraging word.